Welcome to this review of my experience of spending about 8,000 Canadian dollars in the past 1 year on the Apple ecosystem. Now, well, I am not an Apple fanboy, and as we have already clarified this thing, I just want to say that all the money that I spent was just because I would be able to improve on my productivity. I know a lot of people love Apple design. A lot of people are much more inclined towards Apple products because they think so it is cool to buy an Apple product. But hey, I'm not talking about the coolness of buying those Apple products. All I'm trying to tell is that how all those things come together and all those things work together as an ecosystem in whole to help you with increasing your productivity. All those things come together if you're working in a professional job, you are an artist, you are a freelancer, or you are a full-time YouTuber. So stay with me and let me share my experience of spending about $7,846 on Apple products last year. Without wasting any time, my name is Anshul and let's get started. Let me start with the number one feature that I have been enjoying to use since the past 1 year on this Apple ecosystem. I'm talking about the continuity markup feature. Now, I know that not a lot of people know that this feature exists on your MacBooks, the iPads, and the iPhones. All it does is that it allows you to preview documents that are already available on your MacBook to your iPad and your iPhone. A very simple case scenario is that let us say you want to sign a document or you want to make changes to a document. Now that document has not been created by Adobe and Adobe does not recognize the fields in there. Now at that time you need to manually type each and everything. What you can do is that you can preview the document that is already available on your MacBook to your iPad or your iPhone. Now you can use the Apple Pencil if you have an iPad and you can manually write down each and every field on that PDF document. If you have an iPhone, you can use your fingers to write the very same and it saves you a lot of time. You do not need to search for different websites online to fill PDFs and so on. It is a very simple way and it saves you a lot of time. Past year I met with the accident and I had to sign a lot of forms, the OCFs and so on to get my treatment done. Now this Apple continuity markup feature helped me to save a lot of time by signing in those documents and filling on those forms to get my treatment done. Now the second thing that had been really interesting to me on this ecosystem was the universal control method. Now let us say I have a MacBook that is connected to an external display, an external mouse and a Bluetooth keyboard. Now all those things are connected together because it goes through one Thunderbolt cable, but at the same time I have another thing that is an iPad Air that is just lying next to me. Now what I can do is that because my MacBook is connected to a Bluetooth mouse and a Bluetooth keyboard, I can sync it up with my iPad as well. Now this is not the Sidecar option that allows you to show your display of your MacBook to your iPad. It is a very different thing and all it does is that it allows you to use the same peripheral that is connected via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth on your MacBook to your iPad and all the other devices might be an iPhone at the same time. So I can use this mouse on my MacBook now. I can use the same mouse on my iPad to scroll some of the features that I'm implementing while coding. So this one over here was really interesting feature for me when I switched to the Apple ecosystem completely. Now the third thing which I really liked about this Apple ecosystem is the way in which we can create notes. And I'm not talking about creating notes on Notably and OneNote. All I'm talking about is creating notes on the Apple Notes application. Now I use my iPad everywhere I go. I take it to my office, I take it to the cafes and so on. Now whenever I have an idea, what I can do is that I can just take out my Apple iPad, I can take out my Apple Pencil, double tap on the screen and now I am on the Apple Notes application. I can jot down that note, I can write down all I want to say, I can write down my ideas, and once I turn off the screen, the note has already been synced up with my Apple iPhone and with my Apple MacBook Pro. And this is very interesting, as now I can start working on my idea once I go back to home. The fourth feature that I really like about this ecosystem is the Apple AirDrop feature. Now I know that a lot of people use the iPhones just because of this feature. Let us say you are very good at photography and you are the only one taking main photographs in the group. Now if you want to share those photographs, if the people around you have iPhone, you can share it with the AirDrop very quickly. And when I say quickly, it is like hundreds of photos and thousands of photos just within a few minutes. Another thing that I use this feature for is while editing images and creating thumbnails from my YouTube videos. Now there is a new feature on our Apple iPhones that allows us to create PNGs from the photographs that we already have. So it crops down the entire thing, it brings that thing and it converts it into a PNG file. Now what I do is that I extract those PNGs from the already existing images and I share it on my MacBook. It saves me a lot of time, and this AirDrop feature had been working like a charm for me. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is the Universal Clipboard feature, and this is something that is very simple, and yet no other company and no other manufacturer had been able to do this in the past. Let us say I have an iPhone and I'm sitting on my couch scrolling down something and I find something interesting. Now I want to read the same thing on a bigger screen. Now what I can do is that I can just copy paste the text on my iPhone, and when I open my MacBook I can copy paste that same thing without doing anything else. So just copy on your iPhone and hit the paste button on your MacBook, and boom, you are able to search the same thing, the same query on your MacBook. I have used this thing in the past where I do not remember a lot of passwords, right? So what I do is that I just copy it on my iPhone, and when I just do Control V, that same password is there available on my MacBook. This happens when I'm using Google Chrome because things sometimes are not synced up very well with the Chrome, but everything else with Safari is good. So this feature over here is very simple, yet a lot of people are not able to implement it. The next thing that I want to talk about is the Apple Continuity Camera, and I'm not talking about the Apple Continuity Camera where you can use your iPhone as a webcam. All I'm trying to convey is that if you are using Apple Notes application and you know that you're writing down something but some of the content is handwritten somewhere else. Now what you can do is that within the note application you can use the continuity camera. You can click on the camera option and you can include an image that is taken just right now on your iPhone camera. That handwritten note is now included in your notes application. Now it makes everything so simple. You do not need to AirDrop it, you do not need to connect it to iTunes, you do not need to send email to yourself. Everything is done just like a breeze just because of this continuity camera option. Now instant hotspot, it's also something that I love about this Apple ecosystem. For example, I'm in a cafe and I'm not at home. Now I do not have internet on my MacBook, but I know that my smartphone has some internet plan and I can use that. Now I'm in a very different situation if I'm using a Microsoft product, because now if I want to connect my iPhone or my Android phone to the Microsoft product, I need to open up the Wi-Fi option, I need to open up the personal hotspot option, and then I need to share. But with the iPhone, if I have a MacBook, it automatically allows me to connect my internet connection from the iPhone to the MacBook. All I need to do is that I just need to go to the Wi-Fi options on my MacBook and search for my personal iPhone name over there, and boom, you are connected to the internet instantly. Now another thing that I want to talk about is the cross messaging platform. Now this is something that I really like about the Apple ecosystem. Let us say I have a MacBook, I have an iPad, and I have an iPhone, and like the iPhone is at one corner of my room, the iPad is another corner, and all I have in front of me is my MacBook. Now on my MacBook, if that message came from an iMessage, I am able to see, receive, and reply to that message on my MacBook itself. I do not need to find my smartphone, I do not need to find my iPad to reply to that message. And one another thing that is beautiful with this entire thing is that once I want to autofill something, it helps me to do the same as well. Let us say I'm signing into CloudWays application and I need a two-factor authentication code, and now all I need to do is that I need to send that code and it comes directly to my MacBook rather than me going to the iPhone, looking after the code and typing it manually. One other thing about this cross compatibility, that now I can take calls on my MacBook rather than going to my charging station and picking up the iPhone every time when it is charging. So if the iPhone is nearby my MacBook, I can receive the same call on my MacBook as well. One of the things that I also wanted to mention is the Sidecar feature that works as a secondary display. I already talked about the universal control, but this feature over here, what it does is that it helps you to replicate the entire display of your MacBook as a secondary display on your iPad. Now this is very helpful when I'm again in cafes having some coffee, and at the same time I want to work, so I can use this display as my secondary display, and it works beautifully if I am coding something. So I can open the Visual Studio Code on my iPad and I can use the primary screen watching some videos or watching some GitHub library or so on. Now hands off to resume application on the laptop. This is something that I do not use a lot of times, but again, you know, if I'm using something like Code Sandbox and I'm using that online on the web editor to write some small piece of code on the iPad on the go. Now what I can do is that I can open the same web page, the Code Sandbox page that was on my iPad, I can open it on my MacBook. It helps me to keep things very organized. I can use the same tabs on my iPad, my iPhone and my MacBook. So this handoff feature, it is important and it works really well. So yet another thing that makes me believe that I was taking a lot of things to be granted. If today I need to move to a Microsoft ecosystem that I already have, I won't be able to do that. I think I have this Windows laptop with me that is powered by i7-12700H. That is a more powerful processor than the one that I have in this MacBook, and still I do not use that laptop a lot. I know Windows has its own advantages, but at the same time, all those things that this Apple ecosystem has to offer has really got me to be an Apple fanboy. So that was my $7,846 spent, my review on how I'm using this technology and how I'm putting that money to use in my daily use and making my life more productive, even if I'm saving even a few seconds in the whole thing. So that was me, Anshul, talking about the Apple ecosystem. Thanks for watching and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.